motion, can we do the roll call, please?
Sure. Director McLaren?
Here.
Director Ariki?
Here.
Director Calandri?
Here.
Director Urasic? Director Urasic? He's coming out right now. Phyllis Stannon? Here. Kate White? Craig Parton?
Here.
And Director Urasic?
Sorry, I'm late.
Okay. And Director Paris?
Here. Everyone is present. We'll go on to the item 3, adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
This is Adam. I move that we adopt the agenda.
Motion made by Adam. Is there a second?
John, second.
Second by John. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion to adopt the agenda by roll call vote?
Director McLaren?
Yes.
Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Calandri?
Yes.
Director Urasic?
Yes.
And Director Paris?
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on to public comments for non-agenda items. Public comments for non-agenda items. Do we have anybody from the public that would wish to address the WATERMASTER Board?
This is Keith Lemieux. I would like to address the WATERMASTER Board.
Good morning, Keith. Go ahead.
Morning, everybody. I just had a quick question. Forgive me if you've already talked about this, but is there, what is the current plan to going back to in-person meetings?
Currently, there is no current plan.
Is that, are you guys comfortable considering that possibility?
I don't know. We can put it on the agenda for next meeting and we can just certainly discuss it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Angel, if you could put that item on the agenda for me. Any other public comments for non-agenda items? Okay, going on to, there's nothing for item 5. Item 6 is the consent agenda. That's going to be item A, payment of bills. Item B, treasurer's report. Item C, accounts receivable. And item D, the minutes of March 23rd, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I motion, Kathy.
Motion made by Kathy. Is there a second?
Second by Adam.
Second by Adam. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda by roll call vote?
Director McLaren?
Yes.
Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Calandri?
Yes.
Director Urasic?
Yes.
Director Paris?
Yes, motion's carried unanimously to approve the consent agenda. We're now on item 7, advisory committee report. Is there an advisory committee report? I know we have the notes in the agenda.
James, maybe?
James, anything to add? Okay, so the page 25 is our advisory committee memorandum. And if no one has anything to add, we will move on to committee reports. And that brings us to the administrative committee.
All right, good morning. This is Matt. So the administrative committee met late last week. We had just Director Ariki present. Director Urasic was absent. But we went through the payment of bills that was just approved by the board under the consent calendar. We also reviewed or discussed an update on the request for proposals that's currently out on the street for the administrative services for the WATERMASter. And we talked about a proposed payment settlement plan being discussed with one of the mutual water companies, similar to what we did with Mettler Mutual Water Company a couple months ago. That's all I have to report, unless Director Ariki would like to add anything.
No, I think that's all what was discussed at the meeting. I don't recall anything else that you didn't mention.
Okay. And then I had a subsequent call with Director Urosek to bring him up to date with what was discussed at the committee. That's all I have to report.
Thank you, Ben.
Yep.
And that brings us to item 9, the consideration of possible action on transfer applications. And I believe that's going to be Phyllis or Kate.
Good morning, this is Kate
Good
from
morning,
Top Groundwater. Good morning. My volume okay? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we hear you
Yes.
very well. Thank you.
Great. So there are 6 transfers up for adoption today, and the advisory committee recommended approval of all applications. And the first one starts on page 31 of the packet. Stephen and Denise Godde would like to transfer 1 acre-feet of permanent production rights and 100 acre-feet of carryover water to EDF Renewables Development. And Stephen and Denise Godde are Exhibit 4 parties in the Central Antelope Valley sub-area and have the permanent production rights and carryover water for this transfer. And there's another application on the agenda for approval for a transfer of 100 acre-feet of carryover water from Pamela Godde to EDF. And the Goddes would like these 2 transfers jointly considered by the WATERMASter. And I'll discuss the first one, which is Stephen and Godde first, and then I'll talk about the Pamela Godde one after that. The Godde family divided their production rights in 2020 and have not been pumping groundwater. EDF Renewables is a solar company that bought land in October 2020 from Richard Miner, an Exhibit 4 party. And he's also a small pumper. He's also on the small pumper list. And Richard Miner's Exhibit 4 production rights were not transferred in that property sale, but his small pumper rights did transfer with the land. And so EDF is a party to the judgment because they have these small pumper rights. Richard Miner sold his production rights and carryover water to Rosamond Community Services District in January 2022. EDF would like to purchase these permanent production rights and carryover water to construct and maintain a solar facility on the property they purchased from Richard Miner. The water will be used for dust control and facility operation, and the 1 acre-foot per year of permanent production rights would allow EDF to become an Exhibit 4 party and carry over any unused water that is transferred to them. And as I mentioned before, EDF is a small pumper by succession and will not need to intervene in the judgment. There are 5 wells on the property now owned by EDF, and Richard Miner had WATERMASter approved meters installed on these wells. Figure 1 on page 35 of the packet shows the locations of the Godde and EDF parcels with respect to spring 2021 groundwater contours. Figure 2, which is on page 36, shows hydrographs from nearby wells maintained by the USGS. The hydrograph for well 84501, which is just southwest of EDF, shows a gradual increase in groundwater elevation since about 2016. And well 52101 hydrograph is about 1 mile east of EDF and shows increasing water levels from 2016 and 2017, although there's no data available after 2017. So there's no material injury associated with groundwater storage and sustainable yield because production is just moving from one area to another. There is no expected impact to local water quality, recharge, or subsidence associated with this production. And more water has been pumped from these wells in the past. Richard Miner had a production right of 999 acre-feet per year. In considering the presented information, Town Groundwater finds the potential for material injury, as defined in the judgment, to be negligible, and recommends approval of these permanent and carryover water transfers. Are there any questions on this application?
This is Adam. No, but I have a comment for the board and the public at large. I think we should start thinking about, for non-potable uses, as the case here, the water is going to be used for solar panel maintenance. We should consider always the potential for use of reclaimed water for these purposes, giving the water supply picture that we're in, and really, frankly, that we will continue to be in. It is something for the board to ponder, for the community to ponder going forward.
Thank you, Adam. Any other questions of Kate? If there's no other questions, is there a motion to approve resolution number R2221?
This is Derek. I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Derek. Is there a second?
Second by Kathy.
Second by Kathy. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of approving resolution number R2221 by roll call vote?
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. That brings us to item B, resolution R2222. Kate?
So I'm wondering if we could talk about 9C first, which is the Pamela Godde to the EDF transfer, which is related, or do we need to do it in order?
Doesn't matter to me. I'm fine to go to item C.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Kate.
It's pretty much the same thing, except for the transfer of the permanent production rights. So Pamela Godde would like to transfer 100 acre feet per year to EDF, and that application starts on page 82 of the packet. And this is 100 acre feet of carryover water, and EDF would use this 100 acre feet for construction facility and to carry over anything they need for maintenance after construction. And the Godde well is the same well. The Godde family just has one well. And so the figures and conclusions for this transfer are the same as the ones that I just presented. Any questions on the second application related to the Godde family transfer to EDF?
Okay, hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve? This is going to be 9, item C, resolution R2223. Is there a motion to approve resolution R2223?
I move that we approve resolution R2223.
Motion made by
John,
Adam. Is there a second?
John, second.
Second by John. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve resolution R2223 by roll call vote?
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. Kate, we're now on item B, resolution R2222.
Great, thanks. So there are two more related transfer applications on today's agenda. And this is where Stephen and Denise Godde would like to transfer 50 acre feet of carryover water to West Valley County Water District. And there's another similar transfer on today's agenda for another 50 acre feet of carryover water from Pamela Godde to West Valley County Water District. And the Stephen and Denise Godde application starts on page 65 of the packet. And they're an Exhibit 4 party and would like to transfer 50 acre feet of carryover water to West Valley County Water District, which is an Exhibit 3 party. And the Goddes have the carryover water for this transfer. And they have one well in the central Antelope Valley subbasin. And West Valley County Water District is in the West Antelope subarea. It has one active well and one standby well, and it has a production right of 40 acre-feet per year and a 2021 ramp down of 88.33 acre-feet. And in 2021, it produced 104.98 acre-feet, and a portion of the one of the Godde transfers to West Valley County Water District will be used for its replacement water assessments for 2021, and the rest will be carried over for future replacement water assessments. And let's see, so a table in the letter shows West Valley County Water District's annual production and ramp down for the 2016 to 2023 period. And by 2023, ramp down will be at each party's production rates. And you can see that West Valley County Water District will need additional water. Figure 1 on page 67 of the packet shows the locations of the Godde and West Valley County Water District well parcels with respect to spring 2021 groundwater transfers. Hydrographs from nearby wells monitored by the USGS are shown on figure 2, which is on page 68. And the hydrograph of the well closest to West Valley County Water District shows an increase in water level since about 2016. This well is numbered 33901 on the bottom left of the figure. And the well is about 2 miles southeast of West Valley County Water District parcel. So there's no material injury associated with groundwater storage and sustainable yield because the production is moving from one location to another. There's no expected impact to local water quality, recharge, or subsidence. Recognizing that this is a one-time transfer to offset replacement water obligations, and that the West Valley County Water District pumping does not represent new pumping, Todd Groundwater finds the material injury as defined in the judgment to be negligible. Are there any questions on this application?
Any questions?
No, only it's a clarification, Katie. When the board approves this replacement water transfer, does Todd Water changes the ledgers on the water to reflect what it needs to go, from where it needs to go to where it needs to be?
Yes. So in the annual report,
process?
The process is that previously, when I had those Excel spreadsheets, which are like the Exhibit B or Appendix B in the annual reports, I have a column for transfers, and I would put like a -50 in, manually put that in for with the Godde family, and I'd put a +50 in for West Valley County Water District.
Got it. And it happens immediately if the board approves these transfers, right?
Well, in the next couple of days when I sit down and do it, yes.
Okay. No, I the reason I asked, Katie, because I didn't know if you wait for some green light from Matt and the staff, or you just do it automatically. And the way I understand it from you after a couple of days, you just go ahead and do it automatically, right?
Right. As soon as it's approved,
right.
It's done. You know, it might take me a day or two to actually physically do it, but and with the database, now that we tell our database handler, we give that information to him, and he'll put it in the database.
Understood. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing no further questions, is there a motion to approve Resolution R2222?
John moved.
Moved by John. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Kathy.
Second by Kathy. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion by roll call vote?
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on item D, Resolution R2224. Kate?
This is the second related transfer, and it's for a transfer of 50 acre-feet of carryover water from Pamela Godde to West Valley County Water District. And that application starts on page 114 of the packet. And this transfer is the same as the Stephen and Denise Godde transfer. The Godde well is the same. West Valley County Water District's situation is the same. And are there any questions on this application?
Okay, hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve resolution R2224?
I move that we approve resolution 22-24.
Motion made by Adam, is there a second?
Derek, I'll second.
Motion second by Derek. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion by roll call vote to approve resolution R2224?
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yeah.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on item 9E, resolution R2225. Kate?
31 of the packet. WDS California 2 would like to transfer 1,000 acre feet to RTS Orchards LLC. Both the transferee and the transferor are Exhibit 4 parties in the West Antelope Valley subarea. WDS has a production right of 1,159 acre feet and also has acquired additional permanent production rights from 2 transfers. So it has a carryover water for this transfer. RTS Orchards would like to use this transfer to maintain past production levels for its pistachio farm and compensate for declining ramp down allowance. Its past production averaged about 1,400 acre feet per year between 2016 and 2021. And in the letter, there's a table that summarizes its past ramp down in production. It has a production right of 808 acre feet per year. RTS Orchards has been receiving transfer water to fulfill its past and future replacement water obligations. This transfer is intended to fulfill future replacement water obligations and allow RTS to maintain its current production levels once ramp down is gone. I added an extra footnote on page 2 at the very bottom of the letter where I tried to do a rough estimate of how long all its transfers would last. And I came to a conclusion about 7 years. So it'll have enough water with all its transfers to go another 7 years in current production. Figure 1 on page 133 of the packet shows groundwater elevations and locations of the WDS parcels and RTS property in the West Antelope subarea. RTS has 6 parcels and 2 wells. The WDS parcels with wells are about 2.5 miles northwest from the RTS parcels. Figure 2, which is on page 134 of the packet, shows hydrographs in USGS monitored wells near the RTS Orchards parcels. In general, they show that groundwater elevations have increased over the past 10 years, and this is presumably in response to recharge at AVEC's Westside Water Bank. And that water bank is about 3 miles up gradient of the RTS Orchards property. Because this transfer results in a shift of location of water production within the same subarea, there is no material injury associated with groundwater storage or sustainable yield. There is no expected impact to local water quality or natural recharge associated with this production. And that recognizing that this is a one-time transfer that will be used over a period of years, and that this water does not represent new production, Todd Groundwater finds potential for material injury as defined in the judgment to be negligible for this transfer. Any questions on this one?
Hearing no question? Oh, is there a question?
No, I said no.
Okay. Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve resolution R2225?
So moved.
Motion made by John. Is there a second?
Adam, second.
Second by Adam. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve R2225 by roll call vote?
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yeah.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on to item 9F, resolution R2226. Kate?
So this is the last transfer, and it starts on page 145 of the packet. Meritorina Trust would like to do a one-time transfer of 68.81 acre-feet of carryover water to Metler Valley Mutual Water Company. Meritorina Trust is an Exhibit 4 party in the West Antelope subarea and has the carryover water for this transfer. Metler Valley Mutual Water Company is a new production party and would like this transfer for its 2021 replacement water obligation, and it's also in the West Antelope subarea. Figure 1 on page 146 of the packet shows locations of the Meritorina Trust and the Metler Valley Mutual Water Company parcels. This water will be used to offset replacement water obligations for the 63.81 acre-feet pumped by Metler Valley Water Company in 2021. In January 2021, new production applications for Metler Valley, a new production application for Metler Valley Mutual Water Company, who was a previously defaulted party, was approved for 116 acre-feet per year. And the material injury analysis at that time found the potential for material injury as defined by the judgment to be negligible for that level of pumping.
Yes.
A transfer of 348. Meritorina Trust has had past transfers that it used to fulfill its 2016 to 2020 replacement water obligations. And this is a one-time transfer to offset replacement water obligations for its 2021 production.
Yes.
And Todd groundwater finds potential.
Hey, 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have interference from somebody. There's somebody on that's talking on their phone. Can you please mute, or can we? We muted them. Okay, Kate, go ahead.
Great, thank you. I'm almost done with this one. So this is a one-time transfer to offset replacement water obligations for 2021 production, and Todd groundwater finds potential for material injury as defined by the judgment negligible. Are there any questions on this transfer?
Any questions?
None. Thank you.
Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve Resolution R2226?
Move to approve, Kathy.
Motion made by Kathy. Is there a second?
Adam, second.
Second by Adam. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion by roll call vote?
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on to item 10, consideration, possible action on well applications. And on item A, it would be resolution R2227. Kate?
Rob, I'll go ahead and take this one, the first one.
Oh, I'm sorry, Angel.
No,
Go
that's
ahead.
okay. We have one replacement well application on this month's agenda. This application starts on page 157 of your agenda packet. Tony Espinoza is a known small pumper listed in the judgment and is requesting approval for a replacement well in the Antelope Valley sub area. The replacement well is needed because the existing well produces limited water supply during the summer months, and hauled water must be purchased to meet the water demand. Administrative staff has reviewed this application and recommends approval. Does anybody have any questions for this application?
Are there any questions? Hearing none.
The only question I have, and I think you've answered this question, just remind me, he would continue to use both wells?
He has requested to keep his existing well as a backup source if needed. But if he does destroy the well, he will need to destroy it by the LA County standards.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Hearing no further questions, is there a motion to approve resolution R2227?
So moved.
Motion made by John. Is there a second?
Second, Kathy.
Second by Kathy. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve resolution R2227 by roll call vote?
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on to resolution R2228. Angel?
This is going to be Kate.
Actually, this one's mine.
You guys are mixing me up. Go ahead.
Exactly, yeah. Keep you on your toes. So there are two new points of extraction applications on today's agenda. And the first one starts on page 172 of the packet. And Los Angeles County Waterworks District 40 is an Exhibit 4 party and is requesting a new point of extraction for municipal pumping from an existing well in the central Antelope subarea. District 40 would like to use a portion of its existing production rights for residential water supply from this well. District 40 currently has 45 active wells located in the southeast and central Antelope subareas. And figure 1 on page 174 of the packet shows the locations of these wells. District 40 has annual production rights of 6789 acre feet per year and over 37,000 acre feet of carryover water. And imported water return flows account for a large portion of the carryover water balance of this amount. And the new point of extraction well is an existing well that was drilled in 2008 in conjunction with the Westview Estates development. The development was paused a few years later, but has recently been restarted. And before it was paused, I think about 35 homes were constructed and are supplied District 40 water through a temporary pump station. The developer is currently finalizing the well's equipping design, and a pump station and tank will be constructed at the site. And all these facilities will be transferred to District 40 when completed. The new point of extraction well is 620 feet deep, and it's a 16-inch stainless steel casing. The well can yield about 1,300 gallons per minute, but District 40 indicates that the maximum of 420 gallons per minute would be pumped from this well. And this is the estimated maximum daily demand of the development during the summer. And maximum annual production is estimated at 480 acre feet per year. So figure 1, which is on page 174 of the packet, shows the location of the new point of extraction well, and that's APN 3203057-081 as indicated on that figure. And it also shows District 40 wells. The new point of extraction well is about 6 miles west of the nearest District 40 well, and it's further away from the pumping depression in the central Antelope Valley subbasin and other District 40 wells, where other District 40 wells are located. And figure 2 on page 175 contains hydrographs from nearby wells monitored by the USGS. The hydrographs near the new point of extraction well show relatively stable or slightly increasing groundwater levels in recent years. The well numbered 61401, and it's about 1 mile northeast of the new point of extraction well. It shows a gradual increase in groundwater levels since 2016. And about 1.5 miles to the west, there's another well, 83801. It also shows a gradual increase in groundwater levels since 2016. The new point of extraction well will produce water associated with District 40's current rights to produce groundwater, all of which have been incorporated in the native safe yielding requirements of the judgment. So this is not new production and will not create overdraft conditions in the basin. There is no expected impact to local water quality or recharge associated with this new point of extraction well. The well is in the area of historical land subsidence, but further from the area of the highest land subsidence where existing District 40 wells are located, where other District 40 wells are located. The transfer application includes a figure, which is on page 176, provided by District 40, that shows the new point of extraction well, the proposed development in nearby parcels within District 40's service area. And based on a preliminary assessment of aquifer properties and well operations, nearby wells within a 2,000-foot radius were identified as the most likely to be impacted by the new point of extraction well operations. There's several residential homes appear to be in this zone and outside of District 40's service area, and the closest is about 1,350 feet away from the new point of extraction well. And we estimated aquifer properties from the USGS model and assumed a pumping rate of 420 gallons per minute of year-round production was assumed, and we came up with a drawdown estimate of less than 10 feet at the closest well. And given that this pumping rate is considered a maximum rate to meet summer demands, the estimate is considered conservative and would not likely adversely impact local wells. And considering the above information and analysis, Todd Groundwater finds the potential for material injury to be minimal, and we recommend approval of this new point of extraction. Are there any questions on this application?
Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve Resolution R2228?
Move to approve, Kathy.
Motion made by Kathy. Is there a second?
John, second.
Second by John. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve Resolution R2228 by roll call vote?
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on to item 10C, Resolution R2229. And who wants to do this one?
I'll take this one. This is
Thanks.
the last one.
Yeah.
I can persevere. The second new point of extraction application starts on page 193 of the packet. And Palmdale Water District is requesting a new point of extraction for a new well for municipal pumping in the central Antelope Valley subarea. And they have currently 22 active wells in the central Antelope Valley subarea and southeast subarea. And these are shown on figure 1 on page 194 of the packet. And the proposed well location is shown by a yellow circle on that figure. Now, the proposed well will be at the northern end of the northwest cluster of Palmdale Water District wells. Palmdale Water District has a production rate of 2769.63 acre feet per year and 8775 acre feet of carryover water as of early 2022. It also has additional unused Federal Reserve rights and imported water return full credits. Palmdale Water District pumped 9843 acre feet in 2021. The anticipated production of the new well will be 800 to 1100 acre feet per year. And Palmdale Water District is requesting this well to provide redundancy and reliability to their total groundwater pumping capacity. They currently have 7 wells that will not be rehabilitated once they fail. And the 7 wells have a combined capacity of about 1,800 acre feet per year if the wells are run for 12 hours every day. So the proposed well is anticipated to have a capacity of 1,500 to 2,000 gallons per minute, which is about 1,000 to 1,300 acre feet per year if pumped 80% of the year at 12 hours per day. It will have a 20-inch diameter stainless steel casing and a depth of just over 1,000 feet and a screened interval between 700 and 1,000 feet. So figure 1's on page 194. That shows groundwater contours from spring 2021 in the vicinity of Palmdale Water District wells. And figure 2 on page 195 presents hydrographs from nearby wells monitored by the USGS. The hydrographs of wells north of the orange line on the figure show that in general, water levels in this area have not been declining in recent years. The proposed well will be about a little over 2,000 feet from the closest municipal well, which is Palmdale Water District well number 11A. The proposed well is on the southwest border of the Palmdale Regional Airport, as shown on the aerial photo, which is on page 196 of the packet. And there appears to be no homes on private groundwater supply within a mile of the proposed well location. And that the Palmdale Water District service area includes this well parcel and land to the south. So the regional airport is to the east, and the District 40 service area is to the west and northwest. In addition, there's no known agricultural wells appear to be within a mile of a proposed well site. So there's no material injury associated with groundwater storage and sustainable yield. The proposed well production is not anticipated to result in significant water level declines in this area because production within Palmdale Water District's northwest well cluster will remain at about the same level. Considering the discussed information, Todd Groundwater recommends approval of this new point of extraction application. Are there any questions?
Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve Resolution R2229?
This is Derek. I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Derek. Is there a second?
Adam, second.
Second by Adam. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion by roll call vote?
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director Urosic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're out now on item 11, consideration possible action on formation of sub-area advisory management committee. And who would like to discuss this?
Director Urosic, did you want to kick this off since you requested this item at the last board meeting?
Yes. Well, thank you, Matt, and thank you for putting that together. And I appreciate the feedback from the advisory committee as well as individuals I spoke with. So, my purpose of bringing this to the table is, I would say, two main items. Number one, as the memo that was from Matt to the advisory committee states, that this is part of the judgment. It was stipulated and agreed to by all parties in paragraph 19.5. So I'm always reminded, there was an attorney that sat next to me when I was part of the advisory committee that remembered that we are an arm of the court. And, in my opinion, we should be looking at all parts of the judgment and acting upon them. Secondly is, Kate, just went through a number of transfers, and I know we've asked as a board, and the public's asked for an update of, later in the packet, of the number of new production rights we've given and new transfers and activity. And, I'm aware of that there is a lot of action and processes and transfers and new production and a number of moving parts that are being taken place. And I think the spirit of that paragraph of 19.5 was to have a advisory committee, of the sub-basin where that activity was taking place, to see the impacts that are taking place. Was to bring that to the table, to have an open public conversation about that, to get feedback from all people, and then we as a board decide how we want to proceed with that. So maybe I'll stop it there, and I don't know, Matt, if you'd like to add anything, or hand it back to you, Rob.
Thank you, Derek. Matt, would you like to add anything?
No, I think Director Urosic summed it up well. As you mentioned, there was a brief memo prepared by staff that was distributed to the advisory committee. So they had lengthy discussion. There's a lot of thoughts on how and when these sub-area management committees should be formed. I included a section from the judgment under section 19.5 that kind of outlines the process for forming these sub-area management committees, and also include a map. It's not very detailed, but it does show the general location of the 5 sub-area management committees. And as everybody knows, we've had most of the activity of transfers, new production, etc., and in the central management area, a little bit in the west, and even less in the southeast area. So I think at this point it was just brought forward to the board for information and see where we want to take it from here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Board members, any discussion? Public and go ahead.
This is John. I'd like to know what our attorney has to say on the issue.
Yeah, thanks, John. Sure. It's clear that the judgment anticipated the development of the sub-area management committees. You look at the 19.5, and it talks about elections shall be held upon entry of this judgment. There's indication that everybody thought this was going to be integral to to executing the judgment and to the duties of the watermaster. I think as a practical matter, there are sufficient outlays for the public and interested persons to get their advisory comments to the board, whether it's through the advisory committee or public comment. But this does raise the issue of we obviously want to be in compliance with the judgment. It adds the layer of 2 meetings a year with the watermaster engineer and the costs that will incur, and extra staffing challenges with respect to the election process and other things. We did mention in the rules and regulations in section 16, just so you know, we've talked about this before. Now it's been 7 years and no formation of these sub-area groups. But back when we were developing the rules and regulations, we made the statement that since the advisory committee is working well and allows parties a platform for direct participation in watermaster decision-making, formation of the sub-area management advisory committees is deferred until an interest in formation arises. And then it goes on to say all sub-area concerns and requests may still be raised before the watermaster advisory committee or to the watermaster board in accordance with these rules and regulations. And any party may request formation of the sub-area management advisory committees at any time in the future and without watermaster approval. So we've talked about it before, and if there's good reason to develop it now, I just think we ought to be realistic. Whether we have a system that's working now, what would be added to it? Seems to me you could get some benefit from it by having the watermaster engineer meeting with those area groups on a regular basis. But it will increase costs and the bureaucratic staffing effort to execute this part of the judgment.
Okay, what was the other paragraph that you quoted other than 19.5? Was it 16 something?
Section 16 of the rules and regulations.
16 of the rules and regulations. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that answer.
It's just background information. We've known it's been there. We know it's part of the judgment. We don't want to turn a blind eye. It's just that I think that the question is what additional value can it bring in exchange for developing the election process and the details for having these meetings going forward. And the advisory committee had a lot of really insightful comments and questions on it.
Did they take a position on that, or just dialogue?
No, just the dialogue. A lot of questions about who's bringing this forward. Are they on the advisory committee now? Are they? Can the advisory committee be amended in its operating procedures in order to deal with this issue and not develop sub-area advisory management committees themselves? A lot of questions. I think the general feeling is that we're giving good exposure to the board. The public has many opportunities, either through the advisory committee or public comment, to get their opinions to the board. And we've not at least received comments that the board is not open to comments, advice, and which is what these advisory committee and the sub-area basin management committees provide, which is advisory role service.
Got it. All right. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks, Greg. Any other questions? Any other remarks? So, in looking at the...
Can I... I'm sorry. I didn't hit my speak button quick enough. I would comment in reference to some of what Craig said, and I would just make the comment that, I was part of it, but not engaged deeply into it. I think the value that the potential of these sub-area advisory groups are more of a technical standpoint, more of a hydrological, more of an opportunity, as it states in the 19.5, there's an opportunity for them to sit down with the WATERMASTER engineer and discuss that technical side of it. I don't think there is an avenue that is very technical or a representation that, has that in that manner in more of a specific area. And would just bring that up to the group that, in my mind, something that I think may be valuable is we have a chance, for that. I know sometimes hard work is hard work, and, that's a concern. I am, as one, concerned about cost, and we need to figure that out. But just because it's hard work doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing it.
Thank you, Derek. I'm looking at the minutes from the advisory committee, and one of the items under number 6 of their memorandum said if the sub-area advisory committees are not formed, can the existing advisory committee fulfill the functions as a sub-area advisory committees, including meeting twice a year with the WATERMASTER engineer? I feel that, so far in the 7 years, this has not come up. Advisory committee has been working really well for us. And I'm wondering if we might just send this back to the advisory committee to come up with some recommendations to us of how these committees or committees like them or membership within the current advisory committee could be changed in a way to take care of this issue. And I think that would serve the purpose of not increasing our costs, but also adding to participation. But for us to go out and form sub-area committees and go through elections and have what potentially could be 10 more meetings a year with engineers and our staff and everything, it seems that there might be a better way for us to handle this and still fulfill the needs of the people within the sub areas. Board, what are your thoughts about that? If any.
Yeah, this is Adam. I like that idea. I like the idea of leveraging what we have in place to address the unmet need that Director Urasic articulated. And I think the advisory committee is the best avenue for that, even if it means expansion of the board to include, additional members. And then through that avenue, then they can meet with the WATERMASTER engineer. I think our attorney also kind of steered us or think that leveraging an existing structure is the way to go. So I like that. Like I said, assuming it fulfilled that unmet need that we're looking for, but I would defer to Director Urasic if he sees it the way we do or not, and why.
Thank you, Adam. Barry?
Yes. So I'm a bit, I number one, don't have an agenda here. I'm trying to be a representative, I guess, of the court as well as of the board and the landowners that elected me. So, I just get cautious, and as John asked, counsel to opine, when I read that, it's very specific on how these things should be established and how the process should take place. And, it's, so, and I respect, counsel of yours, Adam. I just get cautious that, we're moving in a direction, or if that is the direction, does it tie to the judgment, or does it need to go back to the court in those manners? I think these were for specific issues that are not addressed or in the advisory side or under the advisory paragraph, right? And so I'm just cautious of that and hesitant. I'm not wanting to add costs, but I'm wanting to make sure we're doing it as we were told to do.
Understood. And maybe Craig can have. We don't. What do you think, Craig? Would that be still would be in compliance with the judgment spirit at least?
I think not. I prefer to, even though it's a little bit of a task, to think about it more systematically in the next month and do a short memo to the board with comments on it. I mean, the judgment is clear, and it anticipated that these would be formed. It's just the practical matter of so many things on the Watermaster's plate for the first few years that there seemed to be no objections, that the board was not being open to input and advisory comments from everybody who's part of the judgment. So I understand what Director Urisic is saying about the tension between forming these committees and creating extra costs, etc. But I'd like to get a better sense of what the judgment says, what the practical burdens would be, what the attitude of the court would be that it's been 7 years and we haven't instituted these advisory committees yet, and what to do about that. So
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, Craig. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go
Good
ahead.
Morning. It's Phyllis Stannon. I wonder if I might just make a comment and maybe a suggestion on this.
Go ahead, Phyllis.
Okay. You might recall that the Watermaster engineer was available to meet with the advisory committee early when we were putting together rules and regulations and other details with respect to the judgment. And we always found that quite helpful. It's always informative to us to hear the discussions of the advisory committee and to hear what their concerns are. It kind of helps the Watermaster engineer work be a little more focused. And of course, we wanted to save costs, and I understand that's a big concern. With the incorporation of these Zoom meetings, however, our travel times costs are zero, and we do have money that we actually had left over from last year in our administrative portion of our budget. We do have quite a bit of work coming up with the model, etc., so I don't want to volunteer too much. But for 2 meetings a year, I wonder if the Watermaster engineer might sort of work with the advisory committee to selectively identify 2 time periods where it would be most helpful with respect to addressing everyone's concerns. And then if there are sub-area concerns, perhaps we could stay on the line after the advisory committee meets with the particular sub-areas. So if we sort of do this sort of all at one time, I think it would be cost effective. I think we could probably incorporate 2 meetings on Zoom a year in our existing budgets. And again, in some ways, I think it would help the interaction between the Watermaster engineer staff and the parties with respect to administration of the judgment. So that's what I would offer based on what I've heard. That doesn't take away the additional time for meeting minutes and the elections, etc. But I think when I heard that Director Urosic was interested in this from a technical standpoint, I'd like to just reinforce that from the technical side, it would be helpful for us as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe let me opine, and engage in that. I think, thank you, Phyllis, for that comment. I think with that comment and what, Craig, you're recommending, I'd support coming back to us, understanding the judgment, hearing, the parties, that have all spoken up and written in, and coming back with a recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't hear, and maybe I just misunderstood, Craig, part of what you would do also, in addition to looking into the judgment and how the structure is, what is the best way to navigate this, you will come up working with the staff maybe with the most appropriate or cost-effective approach that serves the purpose of everybody.
Yes, and I'd like to find out, Director Ariki, what the history was of that provision.
Fair enough.
And talk to some of the lawyers that were present at the creation of it as to what the goals and understanding of it was. I think that would be helpful.
Yes, and there is definitely a purpose behind it.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm glad to do it.
Okay, great.
All right.
So we'll put this on the next agenda, please.
Yeah.
And Craig will come back with some recommendations for us. Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, is the advisory committee going to hash this over again also? Or are we just waiting for Craig?
We would just wait for Craig now and then see what the recommendations are. And obviously, the advisory committee will see what Craig's recommendations are for their committee meeting, and we'll have comments too.
Okay. How many board members can be at the advisory committee meeting? According to the Brown Act.
I don't think we come under the Brown Act. Craig,
I don't think we do either. I'm just thinking the structure of the advisory committee is just that. There's no policy making. There's no voting requirement to impose on the committee with their recommendations. I'm not aware of what the possible problem might be of having board members there. I wasn't aware that yeah.
I'm just the reason I'm asking, I would like for Director Urosic to let me know when the next one's going to be, and I'd like to sit in on it and see what they have to say about this.
Yeah, John, we can have staff just let all the board members know when the advisory committee is, and I think we're doing them by Zoom. So we can just send a Zoom invitation to all the board members.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, this brings us to item 12, our administrator's report.
Thank you, Director Paris. Good morning, this is Matt. So we have 3 items to update the board on today. The first one being the 2022 landowner representative and alternate elections. They're coming up in September. The current seats held by Director Calandri and the alternates of Recca and Martin expired this September, so we'd like to start that process probably in June for the elections. And if there's no objection, I'd like to reach out to the City of Palmdale to serve in the role of Inspector of Elections, if that's okay with everyone. The second item, we have, as you know, we have the RFP out for the WaterMaster Administrator and staff. Those are due by Friday at 5 p.m. of this week on April 29th. Based on comments, feedback from folks on the list, I expect that we'll get somewhere between 4 and 6 proposals. So maybe Director Paris, do you want to mention what you envision the process looking like?
Us to consider forming a committee so that we can, depending on how many proposals, that the committee could go through the proposals, make recommendations, obviously let the board know who's all put in, but make recommendations of maybe the top 3 or top 5 candidates that the board might want to interview and save us some work in the WaterMaster Committee meeting itself. Would that be okay with the board?
Yes, that's a good suggestion, a good approach to doing it. The only thing I would suggest that depends on how many candidates we get. If it's more than 5, maybe like you said, we say, let's interview the top 5. But if it's just 5, we may want to consider, unless there is a good reason why not, interview all of them. That's the only suggestion I will add.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Adam. So if the board would, however you want to do this, what I would recommend is that we already have an administration committee. I would form a separate committee. Probably I would request maybe Kathy and John to be on the selection committee if we need to do that based upon how many applicants there are. And I'd like to have the ability to do that once we find out how many applicants, if there's, and we can decide that today. If there's 5 or less, we will not form the committee. If there's more than 5, if I could have the discretion to form the committee, if John and Kathy would be willing to serve. What are your thoughts?
And then the interview process, Mr. Chair, is going to be done on in a special board meeting.
Yeah, I think we do it exactly like we've done our fire ones, if the board agrees, where we would do it in a special meeting, open session, just like we did for the attorney, just like we did for the watermaster engineer. If that's acceptable, I thought that one really well.
It is. To me, at least. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Adam.
Yeah, I agree. It went well the way we did it before.
And Kathy, Derek, thoughts?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, sounds good to me as well.
Okay. Then with that discussion, here's how I plan to do it is once the applicants, once we know how many applicants, if there's more than 5, then I'll have staff contact Kathy and John and arrange for them to get together and go through them, and then by maybe next board meeting actually make recommendations to us. If there's 5 or less, then I'll just have staff circulate dates for a special meeting, and we will start the interview process as soon as possible. Will that work for the board?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if I could just add that we probably want to build in their review recommendation from the advisory committee as well.
Of course.
So,
Yeah.
Yes.
So if we do form a committee, then committee recommendations would go to the advisory committee. If we don't form a committee, I think we would just go ahead with the special meeting and go like we do our regular meetings, just let the advisory committee know of who the applicants are
And review the
recommendations
proposal.
before the
Yeah.
special committee. Will that work for everyone?
It will. And Matt, you intend to send to the board members the proposers?
yeah, probably early next week because it closes at 5 p.m. on Friday. So I'll compile everything that we receive and get that out to the board member.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you all. Anything else, Matt?
And then one last item on page 212 of your agenda packet is a letter that the Watermaster staff sent to the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors Association requesting replacement water per our agreement dated October of 2019. You can see there on the memo or letter a summary of the replacement water assessment fees that have been paid by the various parties. Just like to point out a big part of this request is associated with the payment by Phelan Pinion Hills for their pumping. And just a reminder that their well location is outside the state water contractor boundaries, and that's why the replacement water assessment rate is roughly twice as much as those areas inside the state water contractor boundaries. So this letter was sent to the association. When they review this, they'll prepare a plan and submit that back to the Watermaster, and that will be on the next agenda for consideration.
Thank you.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item 13, Watermaster Engineer's Report.
Yes, thank you, everyone. This is Phyllis Stanton again, and I have the item on the agenda, which talks about the summary of new production and qualified small pumpers. These are the tables that we have been providing as an update, and we track all of the applications for new production and qualified small pumpers as we go forward. And on page 216, you can see the tables in the same format that we have been producing them in the past. And just FYI, they have not changed at all because the March meeting didn't have any additional new production or qualified small pumper updates. Any questions on those tables before I just give a couple of additional verbal updates? Okay, hearing none, I just wanted to take this opportunity to quickly go through. We are in the process of pulling everything together for your next annual report, which will cover the calendar year 2021. I thought I would just like to throw out some dates in the event that people are interested. We anticipate getting a draft annual report together and posted in early June. Right now, we have a tentative date of June 3rd for posting the draft. We'll be soliciting comments from parties and incorporating those to the extent that we can before the June 22nd board meeting, where we will give a brief presentation about the draft report. We can produce a revised draft soon after the board meeting in June and have anticipated doing that by July the 7th. Then we will get final comments, incorporating those into the final draft. And on July 27th, we'll be ready to have our public hearing and hopefully have the board direct us to do any additional final edits to the revised draft and make it ready for posting to the court that week. We'd like to turn that around very quickly and get it to Craig to help us get to the court by that Thursday or Friday, July 28th or 29th. As you know, it's due to the court on August 1st. So just wanted to do an FYI of those dates and that information on the annual report. Any questions on that? Okay, hearing none. The last thing that I would like to do today, at the board meeting in March, it was my understanding that the board requested an update from the Watermaster engineer on the progress of putting together the numerical model that we're going to use to assist us with some of the information going forward. And I have Mike Maley on the line. I think everyone might remember Mike. You met him in the interview process so many years ago now. And he's a terrific modeler. He has done a lot of our groundwater sustainability modeling throughout the entire state of California and is very familiar with the USGS operations of their groundwater model. So I'd like to turn this over to Mike for a very brief update to the board and to the public on the modeling process. Mike, are you available?
Yes, I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
Okay. So we are getting, working with the model, getting it set up. Just a reminder, we're doing 2 versions of this. We're doing an update of the historical model based on the USGS, latest USGS version of the model that was released in 2014. So we're going to update that to the current. And that will be looking at things like storage and things like that. And we're also having one that we will be looking more at some of the material injury, where we'll take the USGS a future scenario so that they have their climate, and then we will be projecting out. A lot of what we're doing right now is some of the data management aspects of that, of just like as we went through all these things, we have the various allotments, how much pumping, but there's transfers and carryovers from that, and so how we lead that in so that we can get it, and then also track what we need to at the end. Also working through, we got a lot of information from geoscience when we did this, I think in 2018, so we're going through that. A lot of the historical information from the adjudication, just making sure we understand that. So that's kind of where we are. We're at that stage of the setting up and data management aspects of it. So I guess that's where we are for now. Any questions?
So, Mike, this is Adam. Just so that we're all in the same wavelength, when this is all said and done, what can you describe to us in a very easy to understand way how we will make our life easier, meaning the decision that the board makes and the information that Codwater present to the board? I'm assuming that things are going to be more accurate, things are going to be done faster, things are going to be done better. Am I off base or that's about right?
Well, I mean, yeah, we are trying to add that capability. I think, like for the material injury, maybe some of the smaller ones, you wouldn't necessarily need to use the model. Maybe the well interference would be appropriate, but it's more of the larger projects. And then also, I believe one of the issues that's been out there is looking at that cumulative change. Now that you're adding all these various aspects, how does that look? And this will provide a tool for some of those types of questions. And then for really the annual report and those kinds of the change in storage, the model with having that water budget component in the model, that it will be able to do a better job of tracking that than trying to do the change in groundwater level type approach. So those are, I think, the two main things. Phyllis, you can add on if I'm kind of focused on the minutia at the moment, and if I missed any of the big picture items.
No, I think you hit it. I think you hit it exactly right. The cumulative material injury is something that is very difficult to do analytically, and having that numerical tool will be extremely helpful for that. In addition to the water budget change in storage, one of the things that I'm quite anxious to do is the continual monitoring of recharge coming into this into this basin on an annual basis. Right now, we track the information with respect to stream flow runoff into the basin, but we don't quite go that extra step of analyzing the changes of recharge amounts. And we have, number one, a requirement under the judgment to monitor that. And number two, we also have the requirement under the judgment not to approve projects that might interfere with the amount of recharge coming into the basin in some manner, as part of a material injury analysis, for example. And so in addition to the change in storage, that water budget component will also be able to track that recharge, which I think is a very important component to this basin.
And the recharge that you referred to, Phyllis, is both natural and through groundwater banking, correct?
Absolutely. We already track the groundwater banking through managed aquifer recharge in our annual reports. We simply report on the amounts that are being recharged and the amounts recovered. In addition, we have some operations that are documented through storage agreements. We have one so far, and we'll likely be preparing others in the future. And so all of that just sort of tracks it. But it doesn't actually analyze it with respect to impacts to the basin, water level changes and things like that. So absolutely, Adam, that's going to be an improvement there.
That's good. Now, one last thing, and maybe you don't have that element now, maybe we'll have it in a different version of this model. Are we concerned, and should we be concerned about tracking water quality as well?
It's a very good question. We do have the obligation under the judgment not to degrade water quality in the basin with any of the activities that are ongoing. And so far, all we've been doing is just simply characterizing it. I think we need to talk about that a little bit further in the future. We don't have a way of tracking changes to that right now. We could, however, as we go into this analysis of recharge, we could do some simplistic, analytical processes along with the modeling to get some information about salt loading, for example, and
Right.
And I think that those activities could be coordinated again with the IRWM process. So yeah, I think there's an opportunity there for the future. It's just not anticipated in these first initial steps.
Okay, thanks.
And that's all we have from the Watermaster engineer today for our report, unless there are additional questions.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you.
And now we're on General Counsel's report. Craig?
Yes, I'll be relatively brief because the items that I want to cover with the board will be in closed session. So that's the court proceedings that have been going on the past month, and I will give the board an update on that. The enforcement letters need to be a subject of closed session next month. All I can say now is that we have varying levels of cooperation from the 5 particular entities, individuals that got the enforcement letters, basically entities. Wilsonia Mutual Water Company staff is working on a payment option. I don't know how realistic that'll be for them to make it, but that effort and at least that willingness and transparency and wanting to work out something has been evident from Wilsonia, and that's appreciated. The 2 in particular that I need to talk in closed session, one is the Antelope Valley Resource Conservation District, who we circulated a stipulation to early in the month and have not had a response from them to that, and I'd like to discuss that with the board in closed session next month. And the Rancho Sierra, the golf course, which has a major account receivable that we have not gotten the response that we want to get. So I'd like to discuss that situation in closed session also. That's all I have for now. The rest will be in closed session.
Thank you, Craig. Any questions of Craig? Okay, I think that brings us to item 16. So for the public, we will have a motion to go into closed session. We'll go into closed session, and then when we're done with closed session, we'll come back out to the public and report if there's any reportable items, and then we will adjourn the meeting. So at this time, is there a motion to go into closed session?
I move to go into closed session.
Motion made by John. Is there a second?
2 seconds.
I think, Kathy, someone beat you out. Who was that?
It was Adam.
Okay.
Either
Adam,
way, I'll give it to Kathy.
very close. Oh, motion made by John, second by Adam. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to go into closed session by roll call vote.
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We will go to closed session at this time and give everybody a 5-minute break. So maybe a 6-minute break. Right at 11:30, we will open closed session if you can all be there for that. Thank you, everyone. And those who are leaving us, we appreciate you coming on and participating in our meeting, and have a good day.